there, welcome back to Penny Saves Paldea, where I've been turning the glitches from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet into a generous dose of copium-laced fanfiction. In this story, Penny has noticed all the weird stuff happening in Paldea, and she is determined to stop it. Today, I'll be adding a new bug into our ongoing plot, along with a few, let's call them logic issues. As a warning, there will 100% be spoilers for Scarlet and Violet in this video, so let's check out what fails we're using this week. Logic fail number 1 is the false star advertisement. You can face Scarlet's challenges in any order you want, but when it comes to Starfall Street, Mela is the character that was shown in previews and promotional art, leaving most fans to think she's the first boss. Her base is also hard to avoid if you travel east out of Messagoza after the treasure hunt starts. But, as it turned out, Giacomo was the easiest boss and the ideal starting point for Starfall Street. Way to confuse us, previews. Logic fail number 2 is Clive's voice. When you reach the endgame, Penny doesn't recognize Clive's voice as Clavel's, and this bugged me to no end. This guy has shown he has zero clue how to disguise his voice over the phone, and Penny has done all her socializing in an audio-only format. Penny got handed the idiot ball here. Not cool. Our new glitch this time is incorporeal Pokemon. Keeping the glitch list going from last week, there's a few ways you can walk through Pokemon in this game. One of them is at the Team Star bases. Yep, that's a Murkrow head sticking out of my hat. I will be using this image. Okay, it's on to the story again. I got a few family and friends to help with some of the lines on this, so I hope you enjoy. The next morning, Penny is awoken earlier than preferred. Much earlier, in fact. An alert on her phone. It's generally set not to disturb her at night, but she's programmed exceptions for certain circumstances, some more disastrous than others. She yawns and fumbles for her glasses, squinting at the screen's eerie glow, the only source of light in the room. Defeat alert. Mela. Her heart sinks a bit at seeing the notice. Reading how her close friend has lost her status as a Team Star boss, well, it's preferable to getting alerts that reality is deteriorating much quicker than she initially thought. But even so, it's not easy news to take. She checks the time on the alert. 4:21 a.m. Seriously? That weird student she'd recruited for Operation Starfall, Juliana, apparently has nothing better to do right before dawn than go running around attacking Team Star's bases. But Penny did make a promise after all, so she dutifully sends the promised funds to Juliana's account. She takes a moment to gather herself, before calling Juliana directly, however. With Mela's leadership overturned, the Shadar squad will disband. The students will return to class. And more time in class means less time they'll be sending Penny the data she needs, if they still send it at all. All perfectly natural consequences of the code Penny herself encouraged Giacomo to write. Her grip on the phone tightens. If only she could go back in time to before she had this stupid idea for Operation Starfall at all. Keeping her friends from getting expelled was the only thing on her mind back then because of course it was. How was she supposed to know reality would start deteriorating a few weeks later and the school might need Team Star after all? Her first hope was that Juliana would flake out and never touch the Team Star bases, but now that possibility has been well and truly torched to ash. She needs a backup plan, and quick. How do I get into these messes? She mutters to the Pokeballs lined up on her dresser, then shakes her head. Sometimes it improves her plans when she speaks them aloud to her Pokemon, but there's no need to wake any of them now. She's created this disaster, and now she has to deal with it. Penny takes a deep breath, turns on her phone's voice filter, and taps Juliana's name in her address book. Signal strength comes and goes in the dorms, a problem that started long before the students and Pokemon followed suit. As Penny waits for a good connection, and for Juliana to actually pick up, she mulls over her potential approach to this little chat. I'd first like to know why Juliana went after Mela before Giacomo. Just a bit of asking around would have revealed that he's the least experienced trainer. Of course, Penny has had some hand in his inexperience. Once Team Star secured its place in the school's hierarchy, letting anyone know that messing with members would no longer be tolerated, Giacomo wanted to start all over with new Pokemon he'd never trained before. He avoided dark types in the past. They have a reputation, after all. Every criminal organization loves them. even the ones who specialize in completely different typings. Team Magma is infamous for its hordes of Houndour and Houndoom, as is Team Aqua for its Carvana and Sharpedo. The list goes on. But Giacomo has changed since Team Star, no longer adjusting his team to what he thinks will impress others. It's wonderful progress for him. Then came the day Penny contacted him, asking for his base's take on the strange happenings around Paldea.
So you're telling me you've seen Pokemon and people moving all funny, then vanishing?
Giacomo kept his tone flat and serious during that first call, leaving Penny clueless on how to respond. You haven't noticed anything like that? Giacomo gave way too long a pause before he let loose with a loud cheer.
Of course we have. Are you kidding me? But no one ever believed us. We all thought we were losing our minds over here. Man, am I happy we have you, big boss.
The ringtone ends and Penny hears a click as Juliana picks up and greets her. There's some scuffling, and it sounds like someone's taken the phone away. The call ends. Penny grits her teeth. Bad signal again? But if Juliana just defeated Mela, she should still be outside the Shadar Squad's base. It shouldn't be an issue. Penny dials again, breathing deeply and falling back to her memories of her last chat with Giacomo. So, what exactly have you seen?
Well, for starters, it was training time the other day, and somebody's Murkrow walked right through my poniard. Then, part of its body vanished while it was flying above me, so I had this floating Murkrow face above my head. Then it went back to normal. Everyone was so freaked out. No one wanted to train for the rest of the week, especially the Perm Murkrow.
I see.
Most members thought the base was haunted or something, and we almost abandoned it. You know what's up then, BB?
His question made Penny cringe inside. If she would have told Giacomo the place really was haunted, maybe the second squad would have disbanded on its own. No Operation Starfall needed to save them from expulsion. But somehow, after all the hiding and deception she'd brought to the friendship so far, she couldn't bring herself to pile on another lie. Not about something as big as this. She told him everything. Well, everything she had information on, which turned out to be not much. But Giacomo promised he and his crew would dedicate all their time to documenting the strange events and send her what they found, which left the crew very little time for Pokemon training. If she lets Operation Starfall continue, she's pretty much made him and his second squad a bunch of sitting ducklets. I need to call off Operation Starfall, she thinks, as Juliana picks up again. Any excuse will do. Tell her Team Star is too strong. Or maybe say they're not as bad as everyone thinks. Like she would believe that when the school is set to expel all the members.
Hello?
Hello? She says. Juliana?
Is this Cassiopeia?
Says a voice that definitely does not belong to a school-aged girl. The voice comes from an older male, mid-40s at her youngest possible guess, and it sounds a tad familiar, too. Who's asking? She demands.
My name's Clive. I'd like to help you with Operation Starfall. I'm a student at the Academy, you see.
And I'm Mega Deoncy, Penny thinks with a roll of her eyes. She hasn't attended many classes at the Academy, but she does pay attention to all the announcements the school makes. And Director Clavel is almost always the one who makes them. With the video feed to Juliana's phone turned off, just listening to this Clive's voice, yes, there's no doubt as to who he is. Perhaps the man should have tried to disguise his tone a bit better. I will need some time to consider this, Penny says, trying to keep her answer as vague as possible. In the meantime, I'm assuming the person I actually recruited for this operation would like her phone back.
Yes, of course you would. Yeah, whatever and such.
More scuffling, and finally Juliana comes through.
Sorry, I have no idea who that guy is, but he seems to be following me around. Should I get rid of my phone and maybe order a new one?
No need, Penny says. I'm pretty sure he's harmless. He might even be useful, though that remains to be seen. About the next stage of the operation, though? Juliana cuts Penny off with a monumental yawn. The poor girl sounds like a Snorlax after a long battle.
I think I need to get some rest in the dorms first, but I'll take down the next base ASAP. I promise.
There's really no rush, Penny begins, only to be cut off again.
Well, there's benefits for me too,
Says Juliana, tacking on an awkwardly long giggle. Penny taps her foot. Most new students are like her, not much for talking, mostly letting the more aggressive seniors like Arvin and Nimona tell them where to go and what to do. How has she recruited the one new student who actually likes chatting?
I guess what I'm saying is, thanks so much for the LP.
Juliana says. Penny's stomach twists. Oh, of course. I mean, you earned it. Another bonus to this whole charade, no more stealing. Listen, Juliana, there's something I need to...
I mean, I don't know what I would have done out there without those extra potions and revives.
Juliana continues.
I didn't think I could afford them before, but since you'll be paying me, I was able to spend more. My Pokemon are growing so much better and faster, and it's all thanks to you.
Oh, my pleasure, Penny says. Your training helps too, I'm sure. Keep up the good work. It's poor phrasing, which she realizes the second the words leave her mouth. She meant Juliana should keep up the good work of training her partners, not the work she's doing with Operation Starfall. There, Paldea depends on Juliana doing atrocious work.
Thanks again,
Juliana says.
Good night.
The call drops again. Penny takes a few calming breaths, or maybe more than a few, she sort of loses track, and tries to call back. Only Juliana's voicemail responds. Penny hangs up without leaving a message, which seems like the Cassiopeia thing to do. No doubt Juliana has turned the phone off so she can get back to the dorms and get some sleep. Penny's hacking can do a lot of things, but it can't remotely power on a phone. So now, in addition to figuring out what on earth is going wrong with Paldea, she has to keep Juliana from completing Operation Starfall, without revealing herself or getting Team Star in more trouble, if possible. But if push comes to shove, the fate of Paldea has to take precedence, she reminds herself. That's what Team Star would do. She smiles just the tiniest bit at the thought of her friends banding together once again against an overwhelming threat. Her first plan is to go back to sleep if she can, but adrenaline has taken over. She needs to call Mela. Even if the Shadar squad has to publicly disband, the crew might be able to set some sparks in the shadows. Metaphorically speaking, of course. Penny really does need to watch her wording from now on. Well, that wraps up Chapter 2. The next video will be up in 2 weeks while I catch up on getting some more footage. So thanks so much. See you then.